Sorry, I thought I had it on. The family I grew up in was rather fundamentalist, and they took the Bible quite literally. So in learning this story, I had reason to believe that I could walk on water. So one day while at the pool, in this story you remember that the message that seems to be important that's conveyed is, as long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he would not sink. So that's the message I got. So I got to the pool and I looked up and stepped out onto the water and went to the bottom of the pool. Naturally, because that's the way nature works. Fortunately, it was a wading pool. It wasn't too deep. But I was rather disappointed because I thought I should be able to do that, not stopping to think through that I am neither Jesus nor Peter. But this story has stuck with me for a long time, as you can see. In the 1800s, biblical scholars began to use a lot of the tools of the time when it came to trying to understand nature and the things of the scriptures. And so they developed what is commonly called biblical criticism. Now, criticism means not criticize in the way we normally use the word as something negative, but to critique. And so they would critique the scriptures. And they would try to more deeply understand what the scriptures were trying to say. But being children of the Enlightenment age, they found themselves struggling a great deal with the miracle stories in the Bible. In fact, they often found themselves embarrassed by them because we know how nature works. There's gravity. There are all the things that are a part of nature that we understand and we believe they make sense. So to tell a story about Jesus walking on water and Peter doing the same was embarrassing to them. They did not really understand that this was a miracle. This was something beyond the normal way of things functioning in this world. When we look at the scriptures, sometimes we wonder about these miracle stories too. Did they really happen that way? Did Peter actually get out of the boat and walk on the water? And then when seeing the wind and the waves began to sink and cried out for help, and Jesus lifted him up and they walked back to the boat and got in the boat. Can we take that literally? Well, in Anglicanism, we don't take the Bible literally word for word, but we take the Bible seriously. And we really seriously look at these stories, and it also kind of depends upon what premise you start out with. If you ever studied logic while in college or university, you know that your conclusion is going to have your premise is going to have a lot to do with the conclusion you come up with. If you start out believing that Jesus is just a human being, then the logical conclusion is that he couldn't do miracles. If you understand that Jesus is the God-man, that he's both God and human, then I should think Jesus could do miracles. Doesn't seem too difficult to me. That's why we have the story of the feeding of the 5,000, which we had last week. These miracle stories to some people are baffling, and they are a stumbling block to their faith. But we believe in miracles. We don't walk on water. We know that. We don't do things that are opposed to the natural order. But we don't have any trouble believing in the miraculous. And sometimes there are very miraculous things that happen to people who are ill and who are being dealt with in the medical community, and there is no hope for them, and something happens and they become well. Those stories happen, we know, from time to time. That to me is just as miraculous as walking on water. Now, we could also look at this story as an allegory. We could say that the boat is the church. Peter, according to the Roman Catholics, is the head of the church. Well, not the head, but the primary bishop. And that the church is going through some rough waters, and Jesus says, be still, it'll calm down, it'll be okay. I think that's an okay way to look at the story, but it's not the only way. At least for me, the primary point of the story is to try to make it plain to us who Jesus really is. That he is the Messiah, that he is the Son of God. We affirm that every time we say the creed. And I think it's been important for us in the Anglican Communion to hang on to the creeds, because I think they give us shape and form and a way to believe. And if we go outside of that, we can wander into some strange territory. So the punchline of the story, as you might remember, Jesus said to Peter, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Peter could have said, because I'm human, and I know that it's not normal to walk on water. And then when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshiped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. I think that's the real point of the story, to make it plain that Jesus is the Son of God.